Hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek here, and I wanted to spend today, as well as the next coming few days, talking about, well, continuing our discussion on the upcoming Champions DLC that we've talked about, the Lord Pack, which I still feel very strongly is the Champions of Chaos. And I wanted to focus today's video, instead of talking about kind of the overall idea, which we did last time, I wanted to start focusing on the legendary lords in particular that I think are going to come in this DLC. Because, as we've spoken about, it all lines up very, very nicely. Where we have this idea of there are 4 of them, so that means there's probably one for each of the dark gods. That would make the most sense. And it would be a very strong first Lord Pack for Total War Warhammer 3. So, today, we're going to start by talking about those characters. And the first character that I wanted to discuss is that I actually wanted to go over the easy ones, and then as we go through the week, we'll get into the tough one. Because 3 of them, for Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle, I think they are very, very easy predictions. And easy slam dunks if you're well aware of the characters. Whereas when it comes to Slaanesh, things are going to get a little tricky. But today we're going to start with Khorne. So who do I think is going to be brought out to represent the Warriors of Chaos of Khorne? And for me, it's not even a question. It's insanely easy. It has to be the one and only Valkia the Bloody. Valkia, of course, is the consort of the blood god. She is seemingly the only human that he has ever kind of, I don't know if fallen for is the right word, but he definitely has taken a strong fancy to Valkia in a way that only a angry god of rage and bloodshed can. But who is Valkia, right? Who is she? Why is she such a big deal? Why do a lot of people talk about her? Well, Valkia the Bloody was originally a human chaos worshiper who lived in the Chaos Wastes. So she grew up in one of those kind of infinite tribes that live out in the wastes and have to deal with, horrifying weather and terrible monsters, and life is just a constant battle for survival. And among all of those she might have been Norskin, but I don't think she was. I'm pretty sure she was from the Chaos Wastes off the top of my head. But the thing about Valkia that was very special is Valkia grew up in a very warlike tribe, and their tribe did not ban women from fighting because, typically you have to be someone that is capable of defending yourself and pulling your weight, especially in those tribes that live right on the threshold of chaos. But her tribe was definitely not necessarily the most absolute open, but Valkia, over the course of her life, very quickly proved herself to be a terrifying threat. She did not take shit from anybody and had no issue just absolutely devastating people, and built quite the reputation as a warrior queen. She basically established herself as this ruthless, bloodthirsty queen of violence who did not take shit from anybody, and was not only exceptionally skilled at combat, but also was attracting the favor of Khorne. She kind of started catching his eye very, very early on, and he slowly but surely was providing her with more and more gifts that made her stronger. She had a faster reaction speed. She kind of kept evolving as this warrior, and eventually she became such a dominant force in her area that she started to attract attention from other tribes, and there were these big wars, and she was just winning all of them. But eventually she attracted the attention of a demon prince named Losifax, and he was a demon prince of Slaanesh. So this is a terrifyingly powerful entity. Demon princes, it doesn't matter which demon prince it is, all demon princes are incredibly powerful, very, very nasty entities. But Losifax was quite infamous for his lewdness. he was kind of the he's almost the heavy embodiment of the typical Slaanesh shenanigans, where he was completely and utterly obsessed with the idea of having the ultimate harem and going around dominating people to serve him in the, you know, those kinds of ways. And when he heard about Valkia, he actually journeyed to where she was, and he basically showed up to her village and said that she would have a much more fulfilled life and would be serving a much better purpose by abandoning this wasteful life as a warrior and a queen, and should instead become his sex slave. He said this would be the greatest gift you could ever have. And to his credit, you know, he has a terrifying amount of power, and many of his abilities very heavily revolve around kind of bewildering or beguiling those who are around him, where just by looking at you, he can hypnotize people with incredibly high levels of success. It is very, very difficult to hold on to your senses in Losophax's presence, because all of the gifts that Slaanesh had given him very heavily added to his ability to seduce and control people. But Valkia, being who she was, being a very willful individual, as well as just a complete badass and a favorite of Khorne, was able to shake off all of this, and she was so deeply insulted and pissed off by his suggestions that she took up her spear, Sleipnir, and they had this insanely crazy fight. They have this gigantic, titanic battle between the two of them that lasts for days. And despite the fact that Valkia is a mortal at this point, you know, she's basically, you know, she's kind of on par with the Chaos Lord, essentially. She's kind of in that ballpark, but she's still just a very powerful human warrior of chaos. She actually manages to claim victory. It's a terrifying fight. It gets very out of control at a few points, but Valkia in the end strikes down her enemy, and despite the fact that he's a demon, so he should have been able to escape her wrath after being killed, he didn't get away that easily because, like we've said, Valkia has the favor of Khorne. So when Valkia ends up decapitating him, she basically calls out to Khorne and say that she will bring him Losophax's head and personally lay it at the foot of his throne, which Khorne loves this idea, because not only is he incredibly fond of Valkia, especially because she just bested a demon prince a one-on-one, which is insane. Like, that is such an impressive feat for a human, that, you know, Khorne is like, yes, you will do this, and I will, you know, ascend you to the highest of ranks. You know, you will become the greatest of my followers. And so Valkia takes Losophax's head, and she basically makes it into a shield, and he's still alive on there. He's not, Losophax is not dead. He is basically bound into her shield. And so she takes his head, and she goes on a pilgrimage with the goal of reaching the realm of chaos and marching her way all the way to the brass, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Khorne's fortress, and you know, giving him this gift. However, it doesn't go according to plan. Unfortunately for Valkia, despite, you know, destiny seeming to have lined up for her and everything, she ends up dying. She makes her journey north into the Chaos Wastes, but she dies before she can reach the realm of chaos. You know, the other gods, especially Slaanesh, were not super happy with her after the shenanigans she pulled, and just due to other players in the great game, she loses her life. So Valkia dies, but when she dies, Khorne is incredibly angered, because this was not the way it was supposed to go. He basically was really invested in this show, and something, you know, Zinch pulled some bullshit with the script, and his favorite character died. And Khorne decided, no, that's a bunch of bullshit. And he gets so angry that, like, one of the angriest he's ever been, he lets out this bellow of rage that is so immense, it's so concentrated that it starts screwing with reality, and it causes Valkia to come back to life. So he basically unleashes such a bellow of rage that it forces Valkia to her soul to return to her body, which is broken. And so with her body, with her alive, Khorne has his servants bring Valkia to him, and Khorne remakes Valkia into an image more pleasing to him within his forges in his fortress. So Valkia is essentially reforged into the kind of the image, an image of perfect beauty by Khorne's standards, which results in her having the kind of bizarre appearance that she does, where she has like a bloodletter's head. So she kind of has this like elongated head. She's got those horns, she has hooves, she's got those big bat wings, all that stuff. So she has essentially been showered in his blessings, and now is the Valkyrie of Khorne. You know, if you're aware of the Valkyries of like Odin and all that stuff of Norse mythology, then you're fairly, Valkia has become this entity who's kind of Khorne's mortal herald. Now, one thing that is important to note that a lot of people get very easily confused by because of her appearance, and because that, she's a pretty big deal, is a lot of people mistakenly believe that Valkia is a demon, and she's not. Valkia is 100% mortal. She is not a demon. She is still mostly human. She is definitely a mutant. That is undeniable. She is a mutant, but she is not a demon. And that tends to throw a lot of people off because of her importance and her appearance. But try not to let it confuse you. She's not a demon. She's human. At least in all the ways that matter. She can be killed, and we see that happen during the end times. When Valkia is killed, when Valkia is struck down, she dies. She doesn't, dissolve back into the realm of chaos or do anything like a demon. She is killed by Ludwig Schwarzhelm, though she kills him simultaneously, and that's the end. She dies. Now she is resurrected, kind of using the same hack that Khorne used during originally to come back in Age of Sigmar, but there are a lot of shenanigans with Age of Sigmar about like characters dying who should have been permanently dead, but then they come back anyway, so that part doesn't really matter. But what does matter is that she is a Warrior of Chaos character. A lot of people, I think, tend to get I've seen way too many posts where people think, she should be with the demon, the monogod Khorne demons. But no, she's a Warrior of Chaos character. She's always been in the Warrior of Chaos books. Games Workshop has very deliberately made sure that she is never a demon. She doesn't have any demon rules. She's never had any demon keywords. She's never had any demon abilities. She is immortal. She is a mortal who has incredible power and who has a lot of really fascinating gimmicks. It is said that when Valkia appears upon the battlefield, that she will supposedly take the souls of those who prove worthy to Khorne. That's not really what she does. She does have Khorne's view on her at all times, which let's go ahead and get into her abilities. But that's the gist of Valkia. And she is a badass, terrifying, nasty character. I mean, Valkia had 2 daughters, and when Valkia returns to the mortal, when she returns south for the first time after her Ascension, she ends up murdering her own daughters, which is kind of nuts, but it's Valkia. All she cares about is pleasing Khorne, and all Khorne cares about is that blood must flow. So Valkia doesn't have friends, she doesn't have family, she just has people she kills. And the big thing about her is that so what is she capable of? Well, Valkia is sort of the ultimate I'm trying to think of the best way to describe her. My brain wants to say juggernaut, but she's not really a juggernaut in the sense that she's not super duper tanky. She's sort of she's kind of like the ultimate she's kind of like the ultimate bullet for Khorne. She represents all of the most deadly aspects of Khorne perfected into a very slim design. So where Scarbrand is sort of like this like tornado, this absolute whirlwind of destruction that has a very large impact, but it also in and of itself is a very large thing. Valkia is more like a laser. She's more like a she's kind of almost a sniper. She's a very focused type of rage, where Scarbrand is just sort of unbound anger and rage, and he just is attacking everything around him and causes enemies and foes, enemies and allies alike to kind of go crazy, and he's just constantly getting angrier and angrier and getting nastier and nastier. Valkia is more of almost an assassin type character compared to him. Valkia flies, you know, she has those big bat wings and she does put them to good use. She's able to fly around the battlefield. And with her spear Sleipnir, what she basically specializes in is these really terrifying dive bombs where she comes down and just impales people and basically instantly kills them. She is devastating on the charge because Sleipnir will just obliterate you if she gets a good hit. And the other thing about Valkia is she is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful duelist. She is one of the best duelists in Warhammer Fantasy because she's fully decked out in this really nice set of chaos armor. Her spear is incredibly good at piercing armor, and she's incredibly gifted with it. You know, she doesn't have kind of Scarbrand's more wild attack style. It's very precise, and she's very big on you know, she gets like decapitation strikes, or she pierces your heart on like the first swing. She knows what she's about. And the other thing is, of course, her shield, which still has Loss Effects' face on it to this day, and she uses it as sort of a beguiling gaze. The shield is incredibly distracting. If it catches your attention even for a moment, it can cause it basically just drags your attention to it and makes it very, very likely you're going to make a mistake. So her shield basically depowers whoever is close enough to be able to see it. Basically those in close combat with her. It causes their combat stats to become worse, which makes it easier for her to absolutely murder them. Her spear is designed to absolutely obliterate you, and then she relies very heavily on just high maneuverability because of her incredible skill, speed, and being able to fly around as she wills. The other thing that's really cool about her is that she actually has Khorne's gaze on her at all times. And it's not just like from a lore standpoint, there's actually a rule about it. There's the gaze of Khorne, which basically what it does is it empowers Valkia and those around her because they are constantly bathed in Khorne's favor. However, it comes at a cost because Khorne hates cowardice. So if Khorne, who's always watching Valkia wherever she goes, if someone near Valkia or one of, you know, Valkia's allies breaks from combat and starts to run away, Khorne literally starts hurling stuff at them. Like, he will grab up some skulls from his throne and throw them into the sky, and they'll come falling down like meteors and obliterate the people that he sees running away, or he'll just strike them down through some other means. But he just brutally murders the people around her that he sees flee from combat, because Khorne does not tolerate cowardice and weakness. It disgusts him. So I'm really, really curious if they're going to move that in, because it would be a lot of fun. If I remember correctly, I believe the gaze of Khorne was that it made your soldiers less likely to break from combat, but if they did, you know, it would hurt them. It would be fascinating to see that represented as an ability in game, where like Valkia has a radius where maybe she provides a leadership buff or immune to psychology or something, but if a friendly unit breaks while in that aura, they take like a big chunk of damage, or they take some like direct damage over time as they're fleeing. That would be really interesting. I don't know if that would be fun or good. That might be like a little too punishing, but I would be very interested to see how it's going to play. As far as her campaign goes, Valkia is the least worldly of the four big boys when it comes to the Warriors of Chaos. The four big boys being herself, and then the other three champions we're going to talk about, but the Slaanesh champion being Slaanesh, or Sigvald. Most of the other champions who we'll talk about in the coming days actually have a bit more of an organized history or rivalry with various factions in the Warhammer Fantasy world. Valkia doesn't. Valkia is much more of a herald of Khorne. She's much more of she's almost kind of like a mythical level figure, where she is roaming around often in the far north, but she shows up on a lot of battlefields to witness, Khorne's champions and see how they perform, and also join the battles herself. She's attacked a number of dwarf holds. She's attacked the Empire a few times. She's been seen in Bretonnia. She's been seen in Nagaroth. That being said, in the end times of Warhammer Fantasy, we did get Valkia as kind of a major antagonist to the Dark Elves, which I think could be a pretty fun start position for her. Instead of having where, Nakari has much more of a beef with the High Elves in particular. So I expect that when we see him in like Mortal Empires, he'll start somewhere very close to Ulthuan, or where he can get to Ulthuan quickly. For Valkia, I would suspect, as far as like her start position goes in Mortal Empires or Immortal Empires, I think she's probably going to be closer to Nagaroth, because she kind of has like interesting beef there. Because one of the biggest, from a god/religious perspective, probably one of the most interesting showdowns between two cults is actually the followers of Khorne and the followers of Cain, because they hate each other. They really hate each other. There's a lot of bad blood between the two of them, pun intended, because they are two gods that claim very similar domains, to the extent that it's highly talked about by theologians in the Warhammer world. Many theologians think that they're just the same god pretending to be something different. But the Cainites find that idea incredibly insulting, and the Khornates find the Cainites stealing all their shit, or stealing the blood for their god, to also be incredibly insulting. So I would think that if we're going to get Valkia, which I feel is a guarantee, that she's going to have a very, very big showdown with the Dark Elves as kind of her main campaign. Personally, I think she would make an excellent kind of rival or antagonist for Hellebron early on in Immortal Empires. That would be a very thematic opponent for her. As far as the actual Warhammer 3 campaign is concerned, I still am not entirely sure how they're going to do the new lords. I don't know if they're going to have, because they've kind of been introducing this idea of new campaigns. So I don't know if there's going to be a new campaign map that focuses mainly around these 4 new characters, or if they're also going to be on the Realm of Chaos map. That I feel is kind of a question that we'll have to explore on its own. But if she's on the Realm of Chaos map, I don't think there's anywhere in particular she would have to go. She could go a lot of places. I would just want her to be very far away from Skarbrand. But it really feels like there's not all that many empty spaces in the Realm of the Warhammer 3 Realm of Chaos map. To me, it feels like most of the empty space is kind of like in the Darklands. But when you're looking at like the Chaos Wastes, and like Norska and stuff, there's really not a ton of empty space. But I don't know, maybe Valkia could start somewhere like a little more in the center north, maybe like north of where Kugoth Plaguefather is. That could be kind of an interesting area. There's not a whole lot going on up there, and it's not too close to anybody. But anyway, I think that'll do for today's discussion on Valkia. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. Do y'all think that, oh yeah, it's definitely Valkia, or do you think Khorne would be better represented by someone else? There actually are a couple of other Khornate characters. I would say that none of them are even close to the fame of Valkia, but there are a couple of big bads that exist out there. There's the his name is so determined to stay out of my head. It makes me angry how difficult it is for me to remember his name. But there is the Khornate character who rides a large flesh hound. who Arbal the Undefeated. There we go. I knew it would come to me, but there's Arbal the Undefeated, who's very, very old. Arbal's been around for like nearly, I want to say Arbal's been around for like 1,500 years or something like that. He is one of the like oldest Chaos champions that is still around and somehow has not ascended to demonhood yet. But he, you know, he has a giant flesh hound for a mount, which is kind of cool. There's also a couple of other ones, though I none of them are at the level of those two. But let me know what y'all think down below. What do you think about Valkia? Do you have any ideas for like something you'd really want to see her be able to do? Or do you think there's any like specific mechanics you'd really like to see explored with her? Do let me know. I really hope with Valkia they continue to work very, very hard on the interactions where like flying units dive down on ground units, because I feel like Valkia is going to need to be very good at that for her to really, really work. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. I appreciate y'all watching the video, and I'll see you soon for our next time where we'll be talking about Nurgle. Till then, take care of yourselves. Bye.